This is Ryan Corley, Bachelor of Physics with Astronomy and Space Science, Stage 4, and he's running for Campaigns and Engagements Officer. What positions do you currently hold on campus, if any?
Yeah, so I am the Science College Officer in the Students' Union. I also serve as an Access Leader, which, it's been a brilliant experience so far. And I work in the clubhouse as a bartender. Those are all the positions I hold.
Amazing. What experience do you have that qualifies you for the campaigns and engagement role?
Well, I've served as a class rep and now a college officer this year, but in truth, I just have the ability to be on the ground. I like to see what people think. I like to help people whenever I can. And I think these things get people interested in the union, and this is why I would love to go for campaigns and engagement.
Amazing. What is the single most important part of the position you're running for?
It's engagement itself. I believe it's been overlooked the past few years, and with good engagement then you can have good campaigns, but yeah, I'd love to focus on getting people interested in the union again.
Amazing. What are the three main issues UCD students are concerned about?
I would say the biggest is housing accommodation. I felt it myself this year, not having accommodation for the first 5 weeks of the semester, living on a couch, which wasn't nice. So yeah, I'm angry about that for sure. I feel students' anger with that. I believe that's one of the bigger issues. I also believe fees. I think that with recent fees as well, as a student that might have not been on the good end of results, sometimes it's just hard when the money adds up for when you struggle. And I would also say solidarity in the there's just, our college is so big and we have so many different people, but at the same time UCD just feels very distant to some people. They go through their whole degree in the same groups and around the same people, and I would love to see the college get together.
Do you think that this past year has been good for engagement with the student union?
I would like to think it has. I think it's been better than previous years. Coming out of COVID, I have loved the work that the sabbatical team and being part of the executive team, I've loved some of the decisions we've made. Yeah.
What are your plans to increase engagement with the student union?
Well, I think that generally speaking, a lot of candidates have wanted to promote availability, that they say that the union has had their feelings and they're more than happy to listen to student voices, but I feel like there's a difference when it comes to approachability, into actually getting down on the ground and asking people how they feel. And some of my manifesto points later will be actions to help make the union feel more approachable and not just be available.
How would you react to a mandate that you disagreed with? How would you react to a mandate that you disagreed with?
I've usually, if it's an opinion, if the mandate is, if I disagree on the opinion, if my opinion is disagreeing with the mandate, I wouldn't do anything, because I'm honestly a strong believer that through democracy, through the majority opinion, the union looks out for the students. There has been mandates where I haven't agreed on the approach. I think that some mandates have been decided in the union that should have been put out to the people more.
How would you react in office to a mandate that has been approved that you disagree with? So how would you react to a mandate in office that has been approved but you disagree with?
It depends on, as I mentioned, how students actually feel about the mandate. If it's something I'm in the minority with, then I wouldn't push against it, no. If it's a mandate that's been approved that is maybe outdated, that the opinion of the college has changed, or at least I feel like that's the case, I would like to explore how students feel about it. Honestly, as I mentioned before, I'm not aligned with a political party. I don't have very strong political opinions just compared to, say, previous campaigns and engagement officers. I want to see if there's a political direction in the union. I want to see that be the majority student opinion.
Perfect. What are your plans to increase engagement with the student union?
Okay. Would you like me to go then into some of my manifesto points?
You can, if you want to, you can touch on them.
Yeah. I want to start off with the simple one maybe first. That I want to have weekly coffee mornings. It's something that is very, very simple to organise. It's a weekly thing where definitely myself or some of the other sabbaticals too may join, and students can come in. They can just have a coffee, sit and have a chat with the officers. From first year, I believe it was Tom Monaghan that was the campaigns and engagement officer, and I still hear some of my classmates enjoy how him and Joanna were very approachable. They were just always there if you wanted to have a chat, like maybe in the clubhouse or just around college. So it's just, I want to create an environment where students can just pop in informally for a coffee and have a chat.
Do you mean pop into the student union's office?
No, I would have it in a room, just room booking. I would love to see maybe if that could be improved to a roadshow where you could have it in different colleges. I would love to explore that to see if it's possible, but at the end of the day, something, just an environment to that students can come in informally and chat. And also I would love to start a survey, get an information campaign going. I feel like two things have happened, maybe this year as well, that I think the union has achieved a lot of things that have been pushed for years, the likes of microwaves. The work I think we've done this year has been very good in getting stuff like microwaves, water fountains, things that have been pushed for years. But I've also seen the union feel to reach out to the students. As I mentioned earlier, if there's a mandate that I disagree with, if the disagreement comes through the process of it, I would love to see basically more being put to the students. I don't feel like enough is being put to the students. So I'd love to start a survey, get a real feeler for how students actually think, what kind of infrastructure they'd like to see, how they feel like their lectures, how they feel like their environment is academically, and what their views are in terms of politics. What do they, student politics, what do they think they'd like to see around the campus, and what, if possible, what their kind of views are with some of the political directions the union has. So I'd like to have something solid so that I know how students feel.
What is your stance on the referendum to rejoin USI?
I would support it, yes. Again, it's the issue of if students are happy, of course, with paying that extra €5 on top of all of their fees is going to be the massive issue with this. But in terms of what the union could benefit from, I think a lot. This year I've been working on a science college officer to implement or to convince lecturers to not do 80%, 90% exams. I want there to be a maximum of 70% on final assessment. And one of the things I've done is I've met with the Trinity STEM officer, because for Trinity is a very competitive school with UCD, and if I can bring forward, say, points from Trinity that we feel like Trinity students are treated more fairly in this school, but UCD students are treated better in this school, we can both bring this to our respective colleges and benefit from the kind of comparisons and the competitiveness of the. But also, I guess, in the meeting I had with the STEM officer, we found a lot of interesting things that they do that we don't. And I guess to bring it back to USI, if we were in the USI, we could do this with every college. We would have a ground network of, for me, science college officers, sabbatical officers, there to collaborate with, there to kind of bounce things off the wall with. And I think that's very valuable in terms of seeing what works in other universities and what doesn't.
Right. Why do you believe that not being a member of USI prohibits us from having those conversations as is?
Yeah, I mean, as a college officer, I could go to the other university sites. I could try and find, their contact details. I could try and find a way to reach out to them. But it would be like saying, the class reps can still, if there's no SU council, the class reps can still communicate with the sabbats. But union is a better environment to do that, because it puts people together. And I think that the USI would put student unions together more, so that communication is just easier to initiate. I guess I'd like to add with the USI that, of course, having the network is great. I think that having the team there is brilliant too. I think that, any training is good training. And the USI could offer things for class reps up to sabbatical officers for training that we can benefit from. And of course, if you look at some of the USI events this year, I like to think of the walkout with Trinity and Maynooth and other colleges. They had massive engagement, and our students' union wasn't a part of that. I believe if we were a part of the USI, stuff like that would just be easier to, it'd be easier to work with them. And, the union doesn't necessarily have to do everything the USI does. We are the biggest union in the country, and we have such a powerful place that, we can decide our own direction as well. And it can be, I just think that direction would be alongside the USI.
Yeah.
We would just benefit from it. Yeah.
In your manifesto, you mentioned inviting external organisations to protest in UCD. Which bodies specifically were you considering inviting?
I've just thought of, I could just like to say one example so far of like the cost of living crisis group. I feel like the work that has been done going to the protest myself, it's a brilliant environment, and it does feel like, maybe this is a naive of me, but it feels like progress is being made. People are getting angrier about the issues of the cost of living crisis. I've seen that. I've felt angrier by going to these protests. So I like the work that they're doing, and I would love to see a student-focused protest in somewhere like UCD, somewhere where students can meet with these groups, instead of having to go into town where we only, the protests are great, but the SU can only get 20, maybe 30 people at most, and that's a very big overestimate. I would like to see the engagement come to UCD, which is, that's done by doing a local protest, but then I'd like to see the national attention brought in as well. So as I said, it's a kind of a best of both worlds approach. I would like to see both happen. But, with that being said, this isn't one or the other. I would still love to be involved, see the union be involved in the likes of the cost of living crisis. I would still like to see us go to their protests in town where we can get our voice out. I just want to add to that by bringing it home, I guess.
How do you plan to attract national media to on-campus demonstrations?
Well, I feel like the national media comes with these external groups. We look at the cost of living crisis. Their protests have made news. They get coverage. They involve TDs that have spoken out in the government. The national attention comes with these groups. Sadly, that national attention hasn't came with previous UCD protests. The likes of It's Not Me or It's UCD and the No Detriment protest in 2020, I believe it was. These are protests that maybe made the news by name, but their impact didn't resonate around the country.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that. I would love to see that become a thing. And of course, if you really want to bring it back to USI, how you make something resonate nationally is you can involve colleges from, other areas. You could get different unions involved. And I feel like these are all things that, when put together, can lead to, I guess, the perfect way for students to really make a difference.
How do you plan to differentiate your housing campaign from previous years?
I feel like, first of all, if you look at the position, the previous officers, now I know them personally, and they haven't been through having no accommodation. Of course, students struggle to find accommodation all the time, but as I said, I was on a couch in a conservatory for 5 weeks. Sometimes when I worked, I couldn't go back to the house because I would wake the friends up. So I feel angry that, I know how students feel when they're in this position. I've been there myself. And that, first of all, that mindset is key. First, and second of all, just in general, my work in the past 2 years has been on the ground more than, I believe, a lot of executive members over the past few years. I've reached out to non-SU reps this year for my college councils. I have reached out to different societies. I've made the likes of, I've had people in financial maths in science say that for the first time in 3 years they felt the union just kind of engage with them. So I've had the ability, shown the ability for the past 2 years that I am on the ground and I can listen to groups that have felt excluded for years. But I also have the mindset. I've also seen what students in the housing crisis have been through. I know what it's like and I'm angry about it. So I want to put the two of them together, get things done, and know how to get them. I know what should be done and how to get things done.
In your manifesto, you promise to survey students to find their priorities. How do you plan to promote engagement among students who are less aware of the student union?
Yeah. Again, this is just, it's hard to even put into words, but I've just had the ability to reach out to groups that haven't felt engaged. There's no grand event to do this. It's literally just being on the ground and taking it. I just, when I get if elected to the position, I would just like to analyze myself. I would like to see what colleges have suffered from engagement. I love, as a scientist, I love the stats. I love seeing class rep positions that haven't been elected for years. I love seeing places where engagement hasn't been as resonant with the union. So yeah, it's analysing the problem, which I feel like I've done as science college officer. Then it's just being on the ground, making students feel interested, making them feel that the union is not only something that is available, but something that is approachable. Yeah. As I mentioned before, so it's just that on the ground, it's that on the ground engagement that people have talked about for years, but I feel like I have shown this in my time as science college officer that I can do this.
What are these groups that you feel that aren't as aware of the union that you've helped engage in the past 2 years?
Well, in science, as I mentioned, financial maths. I've met a lot of financial maths people over the past year. I've really enjoyed meeting with them and seeing that, seeing what I can do for them. Sustainability as well. Sustainability is a pretty new course in science. They don't have their own society, and I've loved to push in council and with the class reps. I've loved to see them have a more social environment that they can really, get out and meet other sustainability students. They've done a great job, I must say, but I've tried to help them wherever I can, and I feel like I've been doing that this year. If you want to look at other colleges, if you want to expand it to the university at the likes of business, engineering as well, and ag science, I feel like these three colleges, I've been talking to people in ag science, engineering, and business, and they just don't feel that interested in the union. They just, it's hard to pin the problem, but by being on the ground, there's a better chance of figuring out how to get them into the union again.
So walk me through your proposal to build upon the existing class rep trainings.
Yeah, it's honestly an expansion of what I've been doing this year as science college officer. I've been allowing my class reps to get, I've really been pushing the likes of boards, what boards class reps are entitled to sit on, what work they can do. My boards this year, I've seven class reps on the science taught board, and I have two that sit on a board EDI, and there's the reps have been so interested in doing this that I have to make EDI a rotational one, because I want to have every class rep experience what it's like to sit on a board. So that would be one thing. Sitting on boards, getting your being able to form opinions and lobby groups to get that done. Social media as well. I think that more and more social media skills are just key to being a leader and a representative of any kind. So my class reps have had the full freedom to, if they want to do social media takeovers, let's run them through it. Let's see how things can be done. Mandates as well. I think that this is one that I'd love to focus on. Mandates are usually brought forward by sabbatical officers, and of course class reps get their say in it, but I would love to see if I could get more class reps to put mandates forward. I believe the interest is there. You know, you're coming to union council for the reason that you want to get your opinion out there, and there's things that you want to see done around the college. I think that it's just a massive step for a lot of reps, and I felt this last year. It's a massive step to push a mandate. It's scary, and I'd love to see more interest in getting reps to put forward their views.
Yeah. If elected, what will be your top priority?
My top priority, it would be the engagement side of things. But as I mentioned before, I don't want to put campaigns to the wayside. Campaigns are a great way to get engagement boosted, and engagement is needed for good campaigns. You can see why the two of them are, you know, the sabbatical position covers the two of them. But I just feel like engagement has been very much lacking in the past few years. I feel like the candidates have been, the previous candidates, looking through the likes of the Observer's interviews with previous candidates. They always have more of a campaign mindset.
Yeah.
And I would just like to bring forward that, you know, that level of engagement again. I just want to make students feel more interested and more feel like they can approach us more, as I've mentioned. But that's my top priority for this role, and I feel like it's something that's been overlooked for years.
So thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking us through all your priorities and upcoming goals if you are to be elected, and best of luck.